Hey, there's just 68 days until Christmas 2021. Oh, and today we're going to continue our discussion about what is the theme. And before we do that, there's a couple little news bits to share with you all. And we'll talk about that with Jason as well. I just wanted, for channel updates, let you know sort of the schedule for the week. Tomorrow, we're going to try to do a deep dive into Darth Crate. And I've got a couple of invites. Turn your mic up. Oh, let's see what I can do here. Let me see. Uh, let's make sure it's still set. Okay, it's set. Audio. No, it's up at 197%. It's 197%. That's the best I could do on the mic. So let you guys know I've got it up as high as I can get it. So you guys, just again, tomorrow we're going to try to get into Darth Crate, and then Friday is the Hasbro Pulse Con, and we're going to discuss some of the toy reveals. Yeah, Mark's saying some setting is off somewhere. Well, I'm going to bring Jason in because Jason saw the same thing before. So, hey, Jason, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you? And I just have bad audio today because that's my life today.
Yeah,
So
so they can tell me how your audio compares to my audio, and
yeah, is my audio low?
yeah,
I mean,
it's
other than it being my Max computer mic, unfortunately, for the time being.
yeah, I and that's my other part of the question is if yeah,
Hmm.
Jason's really loud, Santa is really soft. I can reduce
Yeah.
now that I can kind of fix it that way. But let me go in and see if I can change my audio, make myself louder.
So Santa's saying he's gonna try to change his audio to make his stuff louder. Meanwhile, I'm gonna do ASMR, Star Wars Santa Claus style. Here we go, you
Oh,
guys.
that's funny. Let's
Are
see.
you getting the shivers? I watched those videos one time. I was like, "What is this about? I don't understand."
Oh, here
And
we
I'm
go.
like, I like
Now
the
we're gonna
audio.
now we're gonna be
Whoa!
oh
Oh
ho
wow!
ho ho Santa's loud
There we
now.
go.
There we
I hear ya.
go. there there we go. And now let's see if I can bring Jason's volume back up and see if Santa's volume and Jason's volume are roughly in the same ballpark. You guys let us know.
Yeah.
So
Just tell me to shut up if I'm too loud.
it should be much better now. It's peaked out. I've got everything as high as it'll go, so hopefully that does it. So look, the one big part of the news, and people are starting to run with it. I saw Meg's video this morning. Is the strike update, right? So
Mm-hmm.
over the weekend, a we'll say a contingent deal was made because I think a lot of people are thinking that the strike is over. It's not going to happen. They reached a deal, settled, we're done. But that's not the full story. As it
Mm-hmm.
goes with unions, the members get to vote, and so the leadership made a deal Saturday. The folks at the bargaining table came up with a bargain, and now it goes back out to members to discuss and vote. Um, and there's some news articles coming out. I just read Varieties on this topic, and Variety said, and it's from yesterday, so it hasn't been updated for today, but it says it could be rejected by the members. And uh, it says many members of the union said they will vote against ratifying the new contract because it doesn't do enough to address conditions. And there was a quote that they put in there. It says basically nothing changed. I've not heard a single person say they will vote yes. And it says a ratification vote will likely not be held for several weeks as the lawyers have to translate the deal and contract language. Meanwhile, work will proceed as normal. So, what's your take on all of that, or what are you hearing, Jason?
Well, it does. Everyone who I know who's working on stuff was really happy about that they got anywhere and that it moved because for a while there, everyone thought it was going to be pretty much a stalemate. And Star Wars Time had an article, saying that they were ready to shut down for 3 months, like Lucasfilm
Right.
was. Like that's what it looked like was going to happen. And so I am happy on that part. I heard that it was going to be about three. I heard that if this deal though was a contingent deal for 3 years.
Oh,
So whatever they agree on now is supposedly going to last them around 3 years, and then in 3 years they need to have the solution completely ironed out and solved. So I kind of think that if they're going to vote how the union tells them to overall. I'm not saying
oh,
there won't be outliers who are angry, but that's me also being optimist and hoping for the best.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting because they said it's likely to be several weeks
Mhm.
until the vote actually happens. Meanwhile, you can bet your bottom dollar that folks like Lucasfilm and Marvel are going to be running full steam ahead as quickly as possible to get as much done and into post production or wrapped up before that vote happens, so that our content for 2022 will not be impacted as severely. You know.
Yeah, yeah. They and on a completely other side note, they just like delayed Indiana Jones until 2023.
Oh no,
So
I hadn't
like,
heard that.
yeah, yeah. A couple of the other Marvel movies are just like delayed by like a month or so. Indiana Jones moves pretty much a year away from 7/29/22 to 6/30/2023.
Oh boy. And are
Yeah,
they giving any reason for that?
I don't think so. I don't think they actually did. Other than that, if there was a shakeup in Disney release dates. And I mean, I know from what was going on throughout the last couple of months. I mean, they had COVID issues. They had another outbreak of something else that they brought back with them from their travels, and it was kind of a. And then people at Pinewood were furloughed for like weeks because of what was going on. They're like, no, we're not going to have you guys here. You guys are being sent home. So it's been it's not their fault. It's not like it's
Right.
a movie that was being made by people who don't know what they're doing. But anyways, point being is so they're gonna have some stuff for 2023 now if it
Whoa.
goes really bad on the
Well,
strike. But
good point. Good point. Well, I know we were mostly worried about Mandalorian season three because
yeah,
it was basically just in full steam filming, and we had that thing from Carl Weathers last week saying that he was starting, and we there was the potential anyway that he'd only be working for a couple of days, and then we had heard that Lucasfilm or Disney was prepared to shut down for 90 days as they worked on this strike negotiation. So I think good news for us, especially as being the optimist, right? To take that optimist perspective, is that over the next several weeks, hopefully they'll be able to get the bulk of it, if not all of it, filmed, and we can get Obi Wan or not Obi Wan. We could get Mandalorian season three into post production. From what I understand, Andor and Kenobi are in post production now, or is Andor already
yeah.
past post production?
No, they're in post production. Andor has more to do than something like Kenobi because Andor didn't rely on the volume, and when they film on the volume, most of the work is done before they even start. Not most of the work, but a lot of it.
Right,
With Andor, it's like a classic CGI film where there's a
right.
bunch of green screen and the effects aren't there yet.
Yeah, and
So yeah, so it has a long way to go.
that's a really good point. Like on the things that they do in the volume, there's a ton of pre-production because they
Hmm.
film all the stuff, they come up with all the shoots, and then as they're doing the filming, then they're able to rotate the space, create it as they're going, and using the gaming engine, and they get all the angles and shots that they need. So the post production side is much smaller. Not that there isn't any, but it's much smaller. So that puts uh, like you just said, Andor has a lot more post production. They're doing, uh, and then as far as Kenobi and Mando 3, it the pre-production on those are already done because they're already shooting. Or in Obi-Wan's case, it's already done shooting. So the post-production on Kenobi series is relatively small compared to Andor. So um,
But
if
I should throw out in there though that every single time they have filmed a season of The Mandalorian, it really doesn't get started until late October, and it doesn't finish until very late March, early April. Filming goes on until then.
Oh my. Well, and as Meg put on, there's no way Mando season 3 will go into post until May, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that lines up with what you were just saying, right?
Exactly, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah. So, so Andor being in post production, let's say this does end up going to strike in several weeks from now. Will they be able to wrap up the post production for Andor prior to the strike happening? And will they be able to finish the post for Kenobi before the strike will happen?
I would doubt it. I doubt it. I don't think that if they classically would go in with a grueling schedule on visual effects when they have time, and you don't want to pay when you have time. So if they were to do that, they would just be going like, we want to pay to get it done and let it sit on a shelf. That's just kind of doesn't make sense to me because they're not really up against they weren't up against any kind of clock before now. And the only thing that I could see, and this is like a guess, this isn't like based on anything, but is that if they originally wanted these productions to be more staggered than they are, and so maybe with that, with the fact that if they've kind of like log jammed to some extent with COVID and all that stuff over the last year, maybe we're going to see, maybe they are pushing some of that stuff further along than we would think. But I really don't. I think if it goes to a strike, I think it's stalled. I
So,
don't I don't I don't think anything's going to happen.
so it might be a little premature to celebrate at this moment,
Yeah,
right?
but I do think that the fact that if they got that they didn't quit today, that they're going to work today, I think that's super positive.
Yeah.
I don't think we should look at it as if this is like, oh, we're not, I mean, we're not at it's not we're not out of the woods yet, but we're way more out of the woods than we were on Friday, and
Well,
that's a really good sign, and it shows that both sides are willing to compromise and talk, so it doesn't look stupid. You know how
well,
strikes can be, they can be stupid sometimes. It doesn't
yeah.
seem stupid at the moment, maybe.
Well, I like what you mentioned as well. Like if this is a limited term, like it's a bridge contract, let's put it that way, that
Mm-hmm.
it's only has a 3 year term, and that during the 3 years they're going to work towards a better solution. They may be able to sell it to the negative members now to say, look, guys, we've made these concessions, but it's only a temporary stopgap until we get the full time contract in a couple of years. So I do hope that that moves the ball forward and that the strike is completely averted, right? So I'll put my rosy glasses on with you and think that this is good news. I'm just going to tamper down the celebration a touch, right? Because
Yeah.
it's it's not like we went through the finish line. So I'm just going to tamper it down that much. The other question on here, I think was worth bringing up, and Man on the Moon, one of our newer members, brought up the question. He said probably Bad Batch season 2 after Book of Boba Fett. I don't know about that timing, but the strike would have impacted Bad Batch as well, wouldn't it?
What was that? I'm sorry, you cut out on my end.
Oh, sorry. Would the strike have affected the production of Bad Batch, being that it's
Yeah, that's
animated?
yeah that's actually been a question that I've had, because it does, like editorial does come into play on this stuff that I didn't think that it would, and apparently it does. So if they're cutting Bad Batch out Lucasfilm, they might be able to get the and animators, and but the animator side of it, I don't know if that means traditional animation or cartoons like Bad Batch, or does it just mean the CGI riggers and animators who do Jar Jar Binks? Like that's one of the questions I haven't been able to get answered. But with that in mind, there's going to be no one to do the sound. There's going to be no one to do the sound editing and to put. So if you want, if things went full World War III on it, we would have Bad Batch as a silent film, as a silent
Oh,
series.
no.
You can narrate and I'll play the piano live and they'll show it on the screen somewhere, like in the olden days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's yeah.
Uh,
So it shuts everything down.
I'm
They got him.
I'm missing something. I saw Ronnie said I should answer Dominic's question. I've gone back. I can't see Dominic's question, so I don't know if Streamlabs or Melon has skipped it. I don't know if I'm having some issues, but I've gone up. I see Quentin, Dat Boy Steve,
I bet it just
Meg.
said. I bet it just said like, "Why you so good looking?" Something like
No.
that. I bet it was, and it's like, you know what? I don't know, man. You're talking to me or Santa, but we don't know. We just are.
Oh, I've got to see if yeah, I didn't
Yeah, I
see
don't see it.
Dominic's question either. So Meg says she didn't see it. I haven't seen it. So uh, give me Dominic's question again, and we'll take a look and see what it is. Uh, question on Discord. Okay, well I've got
Hmm.
to switch over to Discord. You guys are killing me. Let's see. Oh, Dominic's question on Discord. Where? Oh, show topics. Show topics. Oh, no, 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 not today. Not look. So I just to bring this up, I opened a new channel on my Discord called Show Topics,
Hmm.
and in the show topics, you can ask questions for future live streams. So it's not questions for today. It's a topic, right? So it's become a show topic, not questions to answer like we would in a live stream. So Dominic's question in there is queued up. We can put it and we can discuss creating a show around it, but not today. Not today.
That's
That'll
fun.
be
That's fun though. That sounds
it,
fun.
it is good. So I think that allows us to transition to our actual topic of the day today. So let me bring this
Right.
up just as a reminder. And this is sort of what spurred me to create that show topics channel or within the Discord is I got this question on a live stream or on a YouTube video as a response to something I posted, and this has become the topic. So it basically boils down to in the prequels had an overarching theme of the fall of Republican democracy, the rise of the empire. What is the overarching theme of the sequels? So what Jason and I are doing is we're breaking this down into a discussion for each of the movies of the sequels, and then we'll wrap it up with an overarching theme of the sequels themselves. So, as a brief review, last week uh, for the Force Awakens, we kind of looked at a macro view and a micro view. The macro view, my take on that was new beginnings, and in short with the micro view, I really like Jason's take on it. Jason, remind us what your take was on the micro.
Well, yeah. I mean, in essence, I think the one that carries over is the going home, leaving home
Yes.
concept or theme. The theme of that people who are running. And in the Last Jedi, one as I was rewatching it last night with the themes in mind, I was like, "Ooh, Ryan Johnson did a really good job with a Finn because we get right into Finn, and in a weird way, it's almost a reset of his character, but it's not. It's he knows one thing right now, and that's to run, but he's trying, but he also wants to essentially find his place, and that sets up, I think, the topic or the theme of that movie super strong in connection to the Force Awakens because
Excellent.
Finn kind of embodies all of it, but also it's also super obvious on one hand what the overall theme is, and that's passing the torch. That's
Yes.
almost what they said from the very start. And
Yep.
I think that's what plays. I think that actually is more of a theme in the Last Jedi than it is on the macro level, especially, but than it is in the Force Awakens.
Oh, I so if the Force Awakens was New Beginnings, I took the Last Jedi at that macro level to be what you just sort of mentioned. I kind of put it in my mind as uh, uh, not passing of the torch, but although that is 100% accurate, the
Mhm.
words in my head were slightly different. It was
Yeah.
about the change of changing of the guard, which
Mhm.
is the exact same thing. It's just said differently. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm with
Yeah.
you.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
And
then
that's yeah. Go on.
no, the other thing that and I because of what you brought to the table last week, I was also thinking about what about the micro level, and there's several things I picked up on, but the one that I kind of landed on and gravitated to the most was hubris leads to mistakes and failure, and we see that
Got it right here. Got it right there. Hubris and failure.
hubris. Oh, we landed on the same one. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
very dominant theme.
hmm in a if you're a really hardcore Star Wars fan and you watch the Clone Wars Yoda arc, I feel like to some extent Ryan Johnson is connecting the Clone Wars Yoda arc to what goes on in the Last Jedi, even down to the very fact because Yoda's hubris is a big part of the Jedi problem in the during the Clone Wars. And when you get into the Last Jedi, it's Yoda who shows up to teach Luke his last lesson that is totally connected to his failure and hubris. And I'm like, is that a coincidence? Did Ryan know this? You know, and I think Ryan uh, is a really good student of film and of whatever he's working on. And I got a feeling he knew about that, and I think he connected. I don't think he made it where you needed to know or you needed to have seen it, but I think that was one of the connections to honoring George Lucas that he put in there, to George Lucas's perspective on things.
That's a really good take, Jason. Thank you. Yeah, I saw it and I was going through it again this morning. So as I was tweaking some code, I had the Last Jedi on, and as it went, I was taking notes, and I kind of put it in our Discord under the sequel topic, and uh, and Luke very clearly says, "In my hubris, I thought da da da." Right, and so he clearly says it. Snoke, in his hubris, right, says, "I cannot be deceived." Uh, oops, sliced right right into quarters.
Classic Palpatine.
It
Sorry,
was great,
sorry.
and we see it with the First Order. We see it across the board. So, and we see it with Poe, right? So every
Yeah.
single part of the movie kind of ties into that hubris bit. Even with the side mission with Finn and Rose,
Rose. Yeah.
the Canto Bite piece that people complain about so much. They got caught, and um, it ended up being a, a failure. So, in all of that, and as a second part of a trilogy, it fulfills the need to have um, the like the typical layout is you have your introduction, you have point of no return or seemingly uh, all is lost, and then the
hmm
third part is normally the rising out of the ashes to victory. And you see that kind of pattern in all kinds of shows, sometimes in like 1 hour serials where where it happens within an hour, the whole thing, right? Um, right at the point everybody's ready to die, something changes and it flips on its head. That happened in the original trilogy really clearly, and it happened in The Last Jedi really clearly. Like complete loss. And it fulfilled that in the arc. So I think Ryan Johnson did a fine job of making fulfilling that role for the movie. Like It's
Yeah.
despair. All is lost, and at the end, they're down to this. The people that fit on the on the Millennium Falcon, essentially being the whole thing. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Right. And that's one of the in terms of like the Last Jedi as a text that I really do appreciate is certain elements about of the various themes and how they actually do sort of interface together. Sometimes you'll have like you could have two themes, and yeah, they're both good themes, but why are they together? Like, why they don't really need to be. And it does a really good job of actually making them make sense. Like, the I think because it related into that hubris side is is this idea of the student and the learner, but also and being being able to be taught and to learn, but you also have people who have to live up to their own name.
right.
And and because and when you look at how it what it does is that, like, for instance, Luke, Leia, and Holdo are legends, really.
Yep.
And people will go Holdo, but they treat in the film, they treat as a text, they treat Holdo as a legend. The Holdo maneuver, all of that stuff, like, they have heard of her. So these people all have to live up to their name. But what does it get them in the end? And it ties into Finn's final lesson, because Luke Skywalker's on an island, sort of suicidal, not knowing if he should even exist. He feels like a nuclear weapon who shouldn't exist,
Right.
essentially. Han Solo is gone now. Leia is pretty much gone in this one right here. Like, I mean, she is taken out, does this amazing thing that inspires, but is taken out, and Holdo is forced to kill herself to save everyone. And so everyone living up to their names means death. And Finn, taking that as a model, is like, well, I'm about to kamikaze into this gun here at the very end. And Rose is like, no, homeboy, that's not we're not doing that. We're not doing it that way, man. That doesn't make any sense. And and I think that is a really, I think that's actually a really powerful lesson, because those people didn't become legends either, like by dying. They
Right.
actually became it by living. But
Well, I
if you're
would.
going to live up to it, you're going to eventually perish.
Yeah, that's really good. And there's a couple of things that, oh man, I'm trying to unpack it and not just like, you know, uh, vomit it all out. But there's
Yeah, yeah.
uh, what you just said reminded me at the end of the movie is, and everybody talks about the broom boy scene, but right before that, when the kids are sitting there, they're telling the story of Luke Skywalker. They've got these little twig figures and AT-AT, like, made out of sticks, and they're retelling the story. He's become a legend again. Like, he destroyed this entire thing by himself. Like, it became that great big legend of Luke Skywalker, and it almost happened as a result of his death, but it wasn't. He was doing that force projection, and the force projection became reality as far as the story being retold, and that's to me fascinating, because a lot of times war heroes are elevated to that same sort of status over things
Mhm.
that they say, I did what. You hear this over and over again, right? People who are elevated to hero status, they say, I did what anybody would have done. I didn't do anything all that uncommon. I didn't, I don't deserve this level of praise. And essentially, Luke is saying that, like, people think that I am this legend when I failed. I made all these mistakes, and 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 I want to. I got Quentin's question up here, and I want to come back to what we were talking about, but I also want to acknowledge what his question is. He said, if we got to dissect this equals this much, did they really achieve what they're saying they did? So I think what is implied there is, did the movies really do an adequate job of telling the story? Like, these themes are there, but if you have to dig so hard, did they tell the story clearly enough? And I think that that's a fair criticism of any movie, because some people
Hmm.
are going to say, "Hey, I got this," or out of any piece of art, actually, right? So you go to an art gallery, and there's all these pieces of work. Like you go to the Louvre, or you go to the anywhere, and you see classic pieces of art that have withstood the test of time. And to some people, that's a statue with no arms. Hoop de doo. You're like, wait a second. that's that's actually a very, very iconic piece of artwork. So people interpret things differently. Some people look at, especially some of the modern art, and get no value from it whatsoever. Other people would give millions for it. So I think it comes to the eye of the interpreter. The Last Jedi is
Hmm.
no different. The sequels are no different from any other piece of art. That it's from the eye of the consumer, the person viewing it. And we do have in the sequels this big divide in the fan community because we came in with different expectations. You have different kind of perceptions and strengths that you look for in movies, or that I look for in movies, and they don't always line up. So I think it's a fair
Yeah.
criticism, but it's also not something that you can use as an objective thing to say they failed.
No, no, no. What 100%. That's I feel whenever I watch any movie, just the kind of viewer that I am, is I always ask, what is this movie saying? And like if I watch like a Michael Bay movie, it's like not very much, or what it's saying is very stupid. And I just think it's a completely different level, and it's not trying to. So I'm not slighting it for that, Michael Bay's not trying to be deep. The problem that you run up against, I think, with the Star Wars movie is you do have to satisfy the Michael Bay kids,
Yep.
and you have to satisfy me. And what I find kind of almost interesting, to go back to the example of the broom boy and the kids playing with the Luke Skywalker action figures, if you will, on the ground.
Yeah.
They're not playing Luke Skywalker on the mountain,
No.
but the movie is about Luke Skywalker on the mountain. And so it's kind of funny when you look at it from a certain way, why how you see some how it doesn't work for some and it works for others. And I think that a lot of that can have to do with what you're looking for, maybe even where you're at in life or you've been in life, and
Yes.
those kind of things. Whether you've been on the mountain or not, and if you've been on the mountain and you see Luke there, you're like, oh, I can relate to this. But there's other people that are like, this is miserable. You know what I mean? I hate seeing Luke down and out. I don't want to see that. And like, and I understand it. I mean,
Yeah.
but that said, characters need stuff to do. And Luke, and one of the geniuses of the theme, I think, is the fact that Luke has to learn while actually teaching. It actually becomes multi generational in the sense that it originally in the Force Awakens, it's just passing the torch. How do they get the Millennium Falcon? Where does she get this lightsaber and stuff like that? But in this one, she's getting Luke's teachings, and Luke is actually being taught his final lessons, and that closes out Skywalker in a good way, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And you nailed it there. Like, if you've been on that mountain where Luke was, then it hits you in a certain way. And Trev is right as well, saying, look, when there's a large chunk of people that have the same perspective, right, like either from a positive or negative or both,
Mhm.
then there's something relevant to that, and you're not wrong. And Trev, and I thought, Jason, you did a really good job of saying you do have to deal with the fan. Like, this is a mature franchise that's been around for decades. It has a an established lore. It has established characters that are iconic across the film genre. And to say, when you do things that offend a large group of those fans, uh, it's still relevant. It's absolutely relevant. But I think too, there's been a good bit of bandwagoning going on, where folks may have their own perspective, but then see somebody else and they jump on the bandwagon with that. So it's really tough to kind of get into um, the actual like what people feel because they're gravitating towards these really strong gravitational forces. So
Yeah.
I think over time that those gravitational forces will diminish and people will start to land on their own opinions as they did with the prequels. And even though there was a really strong negative gravitational pull for original trilogy fans and people consuming it at the time, that has diminished. Hey, Kieran, another $2 super chat. Thank you so much. So uh, uh, I want to get back to talking about and I'm covered by his super chat there. But anyway, look, I think there are lessons to be taken there, and it's from a rewatchability standpoint. When you rewatch these movies, you can mine more and more content out of them. I think that that's going to help them over time begin to uh, get more analysis, get more people going through them, and maybe it does take some extra work on the part of the viewer to pull some of these themes out. But it's that way with art as a whole. Like, do you see these themes in this piece of art? No, I see a bunch of paint splattered on a canvas, or I, I see a lady with no arms. What's that mean? You're right. But over time, it begins to kind of get this interpretation that people pull out of it.
Yeah, and to be like critical, not just a gush about the thing the whole time. One of the things that did really sit different with me when I was watching it last night was how Finn and Poe are so linked up to such an extent. Like Finn or Poe's intro lesson is, oh, I got everybody killed because I thought I could do everything and that I'm better than everyone and no one can keep up with me, but I got it and got a bunch of people killed.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of it, you have Finn who's willing to go die at the end in the same way. And it's like as I was watching it, I was like, man, I love Poe Dameron and I love Finn, but had this been one character, it would have been the best character.
I,
That is, they messed up on that. They
I,
they they took away from both characters to split it into two, and
I,
I think that they've been one would have been so powerful.
I will agree with the critic. Like, just again, for anybody watching this now or in the future who stumble on this, I am a huge sequels fan. I love the movies. They re-engage my passion for Star Wars, and I still have a very high attitude of them. However, that's not to say that I think it's a fair criticism to say missed opportunities. And I do think that the sequels suffer from missed opportunities. Like you were saying, and in my rewatch of The Last Jedi, there's a couple points now after seeing Skywalker, right, The Rise of Skywalker, where I say, oh, fudge. Like, they really missed some opportunities here. and
Mhm.
and that's not to say that I dislike the movies. I still like them a lot, but I can clearly acknowledge the missed opportunities, and you've enunciated another one, like by having that character split in two persons takes away from some of the complexity that you would have in an actual person. Right?
Yeah, 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 and that's and but I mean, I always go back and forth on this because I'm like, you do have to judge something by what they put out. So if they missed an opportunity there on screen at that moment, they missed it there. But then I look at it and I'm like, but are these missed opportunities? Can they be rectified in the future? If you make more Podemeron stories and you make more Finn stories, then does it matter? And was that their perspective of it's okay? We'll get to it, and
Right.
because we tend as Star Wars fans to look at things as being limited when we need to look at them as if they are liminal, because everything is sort of passing into what's next all the time right now.
Yeah.
There's always a next, a next, and so I don't believe for a second that we won't get it fixed, but just today that is I think that is true.
Yeah. I, And Trev getting deep on us here, right? What would Luke and Han be better as one person, or Luke and Leia as one person? And I think what you were just saying, Jason, is right. Like, and I've seen it in the comments as well. The novelizations do give us a lot more content, and it's often used as a criticism. And the same thing with some of the other content that's starting to tie into the sequels, give us more of the backstory of the sequels, give us more of the character development. They use that as criticism to say the sequels had 3 movies to do this and they didn't. They failed. And I just push back a little bit to say, look, I've gone on vacation where you go to a place, you kind of explore the touristy things, and you go away. You don't get a full, uh, enriched experience by going and see touristy things in some place. Wherever that is, right?
Yeah.
You get a taste of it. You don't get the full context. You don't get the full depth and breadth of what that place has to offer by being a tourist. In my view, these movies give us that tourist view of the era, right? You're
Mhm.
introduced to some things, you're introduced to some characters, you're introduced to a story, and it gives you this wonderful kind of uh, tapestry of things. Does it give you all the detail? No, but I don't know that it has to.
Well, what I would and what I would say, Trev, is that it like one of the differences, are like with what I'm talking about, is the fact that like Han's theme in The Empire Strikes Back is not the same as Luke's. Like
Right.
they're not real. Their themes aren't actually like linked in any way, whereas Poe and Finn's are. There's almost like this like weird overlap that it could completely be the same. It could be shared. It essentially is. Whereas Han and Luke, they don't really share them. They're in a weird way, like Han's already this like actualized guy who's dealing with with his past failures and needing to atone for them, and whereas Luke is on a completely different like trek, if you will.
Yeah.
Not to use the wrong word. Don't hit me, guys. Don't hit me. I'm sorry. But it ends up you do end up with those guys having the same, and that's one of the things I like about the next film is when they have that moment about Leia, and he says like you're no Leia, you're no General Leia, or whatever he says.
Right.
It's like, yeah, like I felt like that was one of the times in that movie where I was like, oh, they are bringing it through and actually bringing it into the next film and actually wrapping up something where they do have that shared experience and they both become acknowledged as generals. They're both, in that film and nine, but in this one right here, Poe could have had the same outcome as Finn, and Finn could have had the same outcome as Poe, and that's one of the things where I'm like these pieces kind of move parallel all the time,
Yeah.
and was it for the better? I mean, I don't know. And the novelizations, I think those reflect the internal criticism of their work. Of their like, where are we dropping the ball? What do we need to what
Oh,
housekeeping do we need to like do? So it's not like it's I take it even as an admission. Like, yeah, here's where we but you can't do everything.
right.
One story, one movie. There's only so much time. They can make them Lord of the Rings long, but that'd be boring.
Yeah. I, I agree with you, and I think I want to kind of get back to the overarching themes, get back to the topic at hand, because some of the criticism that come into these movies are, in my view anyway, a mischaracterization of the theme. Again, art is art. Everything's subjective. And if it means something to you that you see, and I saw some of the comments in my Discord where people were like, "Yeah, I saw it as this," and I see it differently. That's where discussion comes about. And when you get a community talking about art or talking about a subjective kind of uh, piece, then the culture as a whole comes to a certain opinion of it that may change over time. You go
Mm-hmm.
back to Beethoven or Bach, right? They weren't necessarily the most popular artists of their day, but over time they become these iconic great things. Not that, again, I'm not trying to shill for for Disney and
Yeah.
Lucasfilm and these in the sequels, and saying that they're going to line up at that kind of art level. I'm just saying things evolve over time as cultures kind of come to some sort of understanding. So,
Yeah,
uh,
Empire Strikes Back being the best Star Wars movie, which is what you'll just hear culturally. That
right,
didn't happen in 5 years. That
no,
happened over like 30 years,
in
twenty
the
five years.
in the current narratives around the prequels. And our good friend Meg, who absolutely loves the prequels, right? There are people
Yeah,
who
same.
absolutely love them, and that's fair enough. But it's become to get a different kind of context culturally than it did when I was going through my 20s. So
Hmm.
it's just a different kind of thing. So and it's all fair. But again, from this movie at a micro level, you and I both agree it kind of takes this hubris and failure. And we see that in all of the story arcs and all the characters. You can pick it out. Sometimes, quite obviously, when Luke says, "In my hubris, I," and then he talks about how he failed, right? So
Yeah,
hubris and failure is in there. You see it in Snoke when he says, "I cannot be deceived," and then whoomp, right in half. You were deceived right then. Like
right
like
then.
you talk about you don't have to wait for the payoff. It's
Yeah.
right. the,
Well, and to I think who was just saying it? Somebody I think it might have been, yeah, Mr. Hamilton. He was saying that it like Canto Bite for him is completely pointless, and it's like I think Canto Bite gets a bad rap because it's not ultimately not pointless in the sense that it Finn Finn learns the middle part of his lesson there from Rose. Rose opens his eyes to the fact that the galaxy isn't a casino. Things aren't always so good, and that they learn that they can be pawns in the war, and they're never the winners. Like that's the important lesson. But the thing about Canto Bight is it's the only mission I think that matters, anyways, in the sequel trilogy where they fell. And this is the second act where they are supposed to fail and the consequences are supposed to become more dire. And because of that, I think Canto Bite gets extra hate. And I think it was on a pop level, it was a miscalculation to make the mission, the part that fails, the most Star Wars prequels looking of the whole thing. You know what I
oh,
mean?
that's an
I
interesting thing. You guys are hearing the puppy. Come here, Piper. Piper,
I was a
come here.
puppy dog.
Yeah, we have. Oh,
Rowdy
bunch of puppies.
Piper.
Yes, Piper wants to get up on my lap. She hears me talking with folks, and she's like, "I want to see." So there she is. There's Piper.
I think I saw Piper gambling in Canto Bite, one of those scenes. I think she was in the background there.
She likes to get everybody's attention, don't you? Yeah, your baby. All right, put her back down. No, look, I think Canto Bite gets kind of mischaracterized as well, and I think it's a Star Warsy thing to have these side journeys that are sort of pointless to the overall story, but add a little bit of character development and. You can see it across the franchise. You go through all of the movies, and they all have this. Whether you like or dislike how it was executed, it's not out of character. And I thought Canto Bite was done really well, and I enjoyed it. I don't like how it was set up with the slow space chase thing going on. I
Mhm.
think that it would have been a lot better. Again, missed opportunities. I think that could have been executed differently. And if somebody were there saying, "What if we do this?" and maybe throwing some different ideas out, they could have executed that whole side mission better and maybe avoided the slow space chase kind of uh, part of it. Steve says, "How can you help explain how it matters, though?" Oh, I think it matters a lot from Finn's perspective. Really, what Canto Bite does is it changes Finn from a runner to a joiner, and you get all the way leading up to Canto Bite. Finn's trying to get away, and he wants Ray to come with him. He wants to run off with her and live happily ever after. It doesn't. It just isn't happening. And every time he tries to run, he gets pulled back in. Canto Bite kind of plays into that where he gets pulled in, and during the mission, it really pays off well because you have DJ, right? Don't join. And
Hmm.
his whole thing is kind of this kind of opportunity for Finn to make the decision. Are you going to join or not join?
Right.
And through that side mission, Finn changes from a runner to a joiner, and he has joined the rebellion. It only happens during the mission. So when you watch it at the beginning of the mission, he's still a runner, but he's doing this thing to help them overcome the crisis of the moment. During the mission, he changes from a runner to a joiner, and when he becomes a joiner, then he's willing to lay down his life for the mission. He's no longer running. He says, "I'll do what I need to do to help this move forward." He is completely bought in, 100%. He's on board. So I think it's a important part of the movie.
Yeah, yeah. Before that, Finn, you're right. Finn is willing to run, and then but once he sees, because as a kid, he's just a stormtrooper.
Right.
He's cleaning stormtrooper bathrooms and doing stormtrooper stuff. Runs from that, but he has actually no actual education or just no life experience about what the galaxy is like, other than this version of it that he's ever seen. And it's easy for him to go, yeah, I'm going to run and hide, but he can't anymore. But then it pushes him too far, and he's willing to die for it. Now he's just
Right.
willing to be the kamikaze pilot. And it's like, whoa, pull it back, buddy. Like, we have to survive to fight another day. And with that, he becomes the reason leader, who will ostensibly become the guy in 9 who helps them take down the Empire.
Well, and that's another thing that's really common to the experience is that people oftentimes when they join something, they become hyper active. So most often it's associated with religion. So you join a
Yes.
religion, and now you're on fire for it. You're willing to, storm the gates, and we see that all over the place. And so that's very true to a story arc, right? Like you've decided to join. I'm all in, and I'm ready to storm the gates. All right, and it's like, whoa, calm down, bring it back a touch, and we can go forward.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. So, and Meg said we should discuss the Ray's mirror scene. I absolutely love Ray's mirror scene, but I again see it as a missed opportunity. I think it's great in and of itself, but I don't want to go down that path too far right now. I would love to talk about the mirror scene more. I'll address it just at a surface level that she is searching for her family, and she wants her family to be shown to her. And we see right when she gets to the mirror, and she says, show me my family," and she only sees herself. It kind of sets up where they're going, like, your identity is not your lineage, not your parents. Right? That's not
Exactly.
important to who you are. What's important to who you are is who you are. So it's sort of meta in that way.
Yeah, yeah. It's showing her as a long line of heroes, not the first or the last, but important and an individual.
Right.
And I think that the themes that all tie together with that, with Poe, Finn, and Ray, is that it this idea that, like, anyone can be the spark of revolution, and in doing so, anyone can bring important change. And that I think that's more of the final meta kind of theme of the whole thing. Right? I
Yeah.
said meta because I was looking at Bill's
Right.
message,
Right.
but
Well,
the
because
macro.
he has a channel. He has a channel called Meta Egg, and so you say Meta,
Mm.
and it's invoking the call to Will to show up. Good to see, good to see you, my friend. And I'll disagree with Meg. No, no, I don't think that JJ flushed that idea. He actually made it come to fruition at the end when she says, "I'm Ray Skywalker." So that, as much as people hate that, her identity isn't in her lineage, her parents. It's the same as the mirror scene, right? It's the same. It's a continuation of that, and it actually executes upon it, saying, "I am not my parents' lineage." just as the mirror scene said, your parents aren't what you need to see. You need to see you. I think it's the same thing. So,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
no, I do feel like politically, it's more powerful if she wasn't a Palpatine, if you actually show that.
yeah.
But in the fact that he didn't do it, the fact that he made her a Palpatine was like, I'm gonna have my cake and eat it too.
Well,
So
and
I am with Meg, but I do think that your point stands, and I do think that it doesn't nullify the Last Jedi's point
no, no,
in the fact that it does that.
we'll tease out a little bit that that's the next discussion we're to have is Rise of Skywalker. So don't jump the gun, Meg. Calm down. We'll get there. The Force Awakens. Just to go back as we kind of get towards the end, is that we talked how this is really a passing of the torch, right? It's a
Yeah,
passing of the torch from one generation to the next, and there's one scene that articulates that perfectly, and it's at the end when they're in the cave, and Poe has the way to escape, and he goes, "We need to go this way," and everybody turns and looks at Leia, and she says, "What are you looking at me for? Follow him."
hmm
Right there, we that is like a literal passing of the torch. Right, what are you looking at me? Follow him. The torch
yeah,
is now passed to Poe. All of the things that he was learning before, all the things where he failed, the failure is the greatest teacher, as Yoda told us, right? Poe finally learns. Poe finally becomes the leader that he needs to be. And he's not the egocentric like this what we talked about at the micro level, the hubris, right? He had plenty of hubris, and that caused the rebellion to lose a great portion of their force. Now he has learned. Now he understands, and that he is not the, great big hero of the day. He has become a leader, and Leia recognizes that and says, "Why are you looking at me? Follow him." The
yeah.
torch is officially passed, and on we go.
What I guess I know you're running low on time, so I'll make this one really quickly. But the really important thing is Kylo Ren saying, burn the past down if you need to,
Right,
destroy it all, because it is one of the things too is how do you move forward
right,
after trauma and what's happened, and you could juxtapose Kylo's words with Rose, who's saying throw out what you don't need, what you don't like, and keep save what you love. He's saying to burn it all down. She's saying to save what you love. In a weird way, Rose is ultra conservative in that moment. Think about it, but she is, but it's not wrong. I'm not saying
right,
it's wrong at all. It's not. It's saying like one is very healthy and one is just destruction. About how to move forward and make a better society or civilization or culture or whatever. And those two scenes, they work so well together. That's why I look at, like I say, Last Jedi as a text. I think it's very solid. I think
oh
it's
yeah,
a very very solid written piece
I agree.
of script writing.
I couldn't help myself but think of the he she ending, like how it should have ended. They had
Mm-hmm.
those comical bits. There's right after the throne room scene when when uh, Kylo is reaching out telling Ray join me. Ray is saying join me, right? They're both trying to win. Had Kylo decided to embrace the Ben Solo and join Ray, they could have ended the whole thing right then. He could have stopped as the supreme leader. He could have said, "Stop the attack. We don't have any more battle with these people," and the rebellion wins the day because Kylo switched sides. But
Mm-hmm.
everybody's saying that Ray succeeds at everything. Had she succeeded at getting him to join her, they would have saved the day. As a result of her failure, millions of people, or I won't say millions, but loads of people die. The
Mm-hmm.
universe is continued to be fractured, and we have the war that happens in Rise of Skywalker. So uh, Ray's Ray's failure has consequence. So there's me sticking up for my girl. I love her. And her failure or his choice. Well, Darth Chaos asks, his choice, but she failed to coerce him, right? So she's trying to coerce him. Anytime you have somebody trying to coerce somebody to the other side, both of them were trying to do that, right? Ray's trying to coerce Ben to join her. Come with me.
And
You
Luke.
could, and well, yeah, she fails at that as well because
But
she
she
wants.
ultimately succeeds with Luke though, and
Right.
fails with Ben.
And ultimately, in Rise, wins with him, but only after his death as Kylo, in quite a metaphysical way, right? Like he
Yeah.
dies as Kylo, he resurrects as Ben. But again, we're jumping the gun and we're jumping into Meg's. Meg is trying to drag us there. She's trying to drag us into Rise, but
Meg wants another hour right now. She's ready to go. Let's
she's
do it.
ready to
I'm
go
ready. Let's
right
do it,
now.
Sam. I'm
she's
game. No.
she's ready to go. But in any event, that is an argument she loses. She loses it with as you mentioned. She loses it with Luke. She hands him his lightsaber at the very end. Right? She holds it out to him. Come on, and he turns away, and so she leaves without him. And then here at the end of the throne room scene, she says, "Join me." Had he joined, then lives would have been saved. The universe would have been put back into some form of healing. And
Right.
because she fails and he chooses the other, right? She is not successful in coercing him to change his mind or to embrace being Ben. Uh, as that, and as he moves forward as the supreme leader, which he makes evidently clear to Hux, right?
Hmm.
Hux comes and says, "The Supreme Leader's dead," and he chokes him to death. Oh, long live the Supreme Leader! Quit choking me, right? So, so he makes it really clear to Hux that he is the Supreme Leader. As the Supreme Leader, he could have put an end to the whole thing, but she failed. So let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'd say
he.
he fell too because he had it right there in front of him of what how he could have got the end to the means. He has this whole end to a means thing the whole time, and he continually does it wrong because he's Kylo Ren.
Meg is not willing to give up on Rise yet. Meg, hold on. Next week we'll get there. Which brings me to another point, and we'll kind of close it here. Maybe we haven't satisfied the full discussion, but I need to wrap it up. We are going on vacation next week. We're going out to Branson, Missouri, and we'll be working remotely. So well,
Nice.
Meg's still trying to bait me. I see her in
Mhm.
the chat, and she's trying to bait me, and I'm trying to avoid it. Uh, Next week, we're going to be in Branson, Missouri. So I don't know if I'll be able to live stream from there or not. So, Jason, we may have to put a pause button until I get back from vacation, and we'll pick up on Rise at that point. If you guys are in the Branson area, and you'd like to meet up, hit me up on Discord, and we'll try to meet and say hi while we're there. So, uh, uh, what are you talking about this afternoon with your sketchy friend?
Today we are talking about the strike. We are talking about Indiana Jones and anything else that I don't know that happened while we were talking just now. So
Excellent,
yeah,
excellent. And you guys stick around after the outro. There'll be a little stinger at the end. Another Mike Porter dad joke. So you have that to look forward to. Those who are members, you learned that after the outro, and Jason taught me this that that this Melon app, it does the outro and it plays your video and then it tags another 5 seconds of live stream on it at the end. Important lesson to know.
fun stuff.
So what we're going to do is if you hang out after the outro, then you'll get the Mike Porter dad joke of the day. So you guys, Jason, thank you again. I'm enjoying this. You guys, if you want Jason and I to talk about a topic, come join us on Santa's Covert inside the Show Topics channel. Give us some ideas. We'll take those and we will run with them when we finish this series. So, and Jason, hang on. I'll be right back. Okay. So, you guys, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We hope that you have a wonderful day. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about Darth Crate as Trev brings up, and we look forward to that discussion. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here. And until next time, my friends, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, and may the Force be with you always. Bye bye. Your Mike Porter dad joke. What makes astronauts so popular? Oh, well, they're out of this world. Thank you so much.